ZVEREV denounces favoritism towards Alcaraz and Sinner. Alexander Zverev has sparked controversy in Shanghai with statements as explosive as they are controversial. "I hate that all courts are the same. The tournaments want to benefit Sinner and Alcaraz." The German, after qualifying for the round of 16 at the Masters 1000, lashed out harshly against what he considers a deliberate strategy by organizers to favor the two great dominators of the moment. His argument: the homogenization of surfaces, with courts increasingly slower which, according to him, eliminate the historical differences between tournaments and make it easier for Alcaraz and Sinner to play. The truth is that Zverev is not inventing anything new. The data show that Shanghai has reduced the speed of its courts this year, leaving Canada and Cincinnati as the last strongholds of fast hard surfaces. However, what stirs up trouble is not stating a fact, but rather the way the German interprets it, as a conspiracy orchestrated to prevent him or other players from challenging the power of his rivals. And there lies the contradiction. Because while he denounces alleged favoritism, Sinner and Alcaraz have amply demonstrated their ability to shine on any surface: grass, hard, clay, fast or slow courts. In Cincinnati, one of the fastest courts on the circuit, both were finalists. So where does the German's theory stand? His complaints, more than a lucid denunciation, sound like the impotence of a world number 3 who cannot get close to the level of the two great references of the new era. Federer had already spoken about this issue weeks ago, pointing out that it would be interesting to see how Sinner and Alcaraz adapt to truly fast contexts. But coming from Zverev, after a disappointing year behind him, it smells more like frustration than a deep analysis. In the end, the question raised by his outburst is clear: is the homogenization of courts a real problem for tennis? Or simply the excuse of those who cannot reach those who dominate without question today? The stunning stat that shows the gap between Alcaraz and Sinner and the rest of the tennis world. The Spaniard and the Italian dominate the scene with a superiority that becomes more evident every day, and in 2025 they have shared the titles in practically every tournament they have played. Carlos Alcaraz and Jannik Sinner are by far the best tennis players on the circuit, and the gap separating them from the rest of the elite has only continued to widen in 2025. This season, Jannik Sinner and Carlos Alcaraz have contested 3 of the 4 Grand Slam finals held, sharing the major titles evenly, 2-2. Every day it seems more complicated to see the two leaders of this generation lose a match if they are not facing each other. In numbers, the gap is also tangible. The third-ranked player in the ATP rankings, Alexander Zverev, trails Jannik Sinner, the current world number 2, by almost 5,000 points. The German has 5,980 points, a tally that allows him to stay 5,000 ahead of the ATP's number 50, the same difference that separates him from the Italian. Therefore, in short, after a 2025 in which Alcaraz and Sinner have consolidated themselves as the two great references of international tennis, one can conclude that the two best players in the world are further ahead of the third than the third is ahead of the 50th, at least statistically. Serious attack from a tennis legend against Alcaraz. Carlos Alcaraz is going through one of those moments where talent on the court mixes with debate off it. After winning the US Open, taking part in the Laver Cup, and conquering the ATP 500 in Tokyo, the Mercian decided to take a break and withdraw from the Shanghai Masters 1000, a decision he justified by the relentless demands of the calendar, which he accused of giving players no respite or rest. His words sparked discussion on the circuit, but the harshest response came from an authoritative voice, Renee Stubbs, former doubles world number 1 and current analyst, who bluntly called him out for being inconsistent. "I find it funny because, as much as I appreciate Carlos, lately I've seen him signed up for almost every exhibition in December, from New Jersey to Saudi Arabia, passing through Miami. How can he criticize the official calendar and at the same time fill his schedule with private, multi-million-dollar commitments?" Stubbs was referring in particular to the so-called Six Kings Slam in Saudi Arabia, an event that will bring together several tennis stars in a luxury spectacle in which, although it does not award ATP points, does involve travel, training, and added competitive load, exactly what Alcaraz claims he wants to reduce. The contrast, according to the Australian, is evident, criticizing the ATP for tightening the calendar while simultaneously accepting exhibitions that also consume energy and time, albeit with financial rewards as the incentive. The controversy leaves an underlying question: where does the circuit's responsibility end and the player's responsibility begin when it comes to organizing his schedule? Alcaraz's defenders argue that a 21-year-old has every right to enjoy the moment, choose his commitments, and make the most of his status as a global star, while his critics warn that his statements lose credibility if they are not consistent with his decisions. The truth is that the Mercian's figure already transcends the court, and every move, from a title to an exhibition, fuels a debate that goes far beyond his tennis. The eternal tug-of-war between spectacle, business, and the physical toll on those who headline elite sport. Saudi Arabia goes all out again with the Six Kings Slam, the multi-million-dollar tournament Alcaraz will play. Saudi Arabia will once again host the Six Kings Slam, the most lucrative exhibition in the tennis world. From October 15 to 18, Riyadh will welcome the top 5 ATP players, and the tournament will be part, as usual, of the Riyadh season, an entertainment and sports festival funded by Saudi Arabia's sovereign wealth fund. In the second edition of this exhibition, which pays each participant $1 million, Carlos Alcaraz will once again take part in the Saudi capital and will aim for the grand prize, the $6 million awarded to the winner of the Six Kings Slam. The Mercian will not be the only star involved. Alongside him will be Italian Jannik Sinner, champion of the first edition, Serbian Novak Djokovic, German Alexander Zverev, Briton Jack Draper, and American Taylor Fritz. These last three replace Rafa Nadal, Holger Rune, and Daniil Medvedev, who joined Sinner, Alcaraz, and Djokovic to complete the lineup of stars in the previous edition. Djokovic also attacks Alcaraz over the calendar. You have to do more than talk in press conferences. There are more and more exhibitions, the same number of tournaments is maintained, Masters 1000 events last an extra week, and the calendar barely has breathing room. This is the biggest complaint of tennis players, although it's also a double-edged sword since more matches mean more prize money. Still, opposing voices have multiplied in recent years. Alcaraz, like other players, has spoken out several times, but action remains only verbal, and Djokovic now calls for a further step. I see many players talking about obligations regarding which tournaments to play, but they are tied to financial bonuses. There are many exhibitions they sign up for, so it's all a bit contradictory. There is a strong monopoly in decision-making in tennis, created over decades, and many people don't want to change that. What I can say is that players are not united enough, explained the Serb. Djokovic's comments came during the Shanghai Masters 1000, which Alcaraz withdrew from to rest, after the Mercian signed up for an exhibition with Fonseca in Miami. Carlitos will also take part in the multi-million-dollar Six Kings Slam, which is also not an official event. It is worth remembering that this season, apart from the Madrid Masters 1000, he has barely skipped any tournaments. Djokovic went a step further in his monologue and indirectly attacked Alcaraz. We complain, but we don't invest the time and effort needed to change things. The best players in the world need to get to work, truly understand how everything works, and do more than just talk in press conferences. I know this from personal experience, concluded the Balkan. Alcaraz responds to the criticism. After withdrawing from the Shanghai Masters, the Mercian did not stay silent and came out to explain the reasons behind his decision. Many accused him of avoiding the pressure, but Carlos was blunt. His priority is to take care of his body and mind to continue competing at the highest level. Carlos Alcaraz raised alarms when he pulled out of the Shanghai Masters, a tournament that was highly anticipated. For many fans it was a disappointment, but the young Spaniard assured it was not a decision taken lightly. He explained that after a season full of matches and mandatory tournaments, his body needed rest. He also stated that continuing to push physically could put his performance at risk in the coming months. With these words, Alcaraz sought to quell the criticism that arose after his absence in China. The Mercian went further and mentioned that the pressure is not only physical but also mental. Competing week after week without time to disconnect is, according to him, one of the biggest challenges of professional tennis life. Carlos admitted that being constantly traveling and playing top-level tournaments leaves little space to recover mental energy. That is why, he said, his decision to stop was not simply about tiredness, but about taking care of his long-term career, something he considers essential at this stage of growth. His statements quickly found echoes from other players. Polish world number 1 Iga Świątek had expressed her discontent with an increasingly tight calendar, full of mandatory tournaments that often forced players to choose between health and the rules. Alcaraz said he fully agreed with her and stressed that many elite players will likely have to make similar decisions. For him, it's not about breaking rules, but about seeking balance to avoid injuries or dips in performance. In this sense, Alcaraz acknowledged that skipping tournaments can draw criticism, but also made clear that he does it thinking about his future. The Mercian pointed out that if he wants to keep fighting for Grand Slam titles and stay among the best in the world, he must be strategic in planning his season. He insisted that continuing to play without rest would sooner or later lead to more serious physical problems. That is why he decided to step back now to return stronger in upcoming events. His message was clear: health is not negotiable. Alcaraz emphasized that tennis has changed in recent years, with tournaments increasingly longer and more demanding, making it harder to maintain peak performance throughout the calendar. He cited, As an example, that a Masters 1000 now lasts practically 2 weeks instead of one, which implies enormous physical and mental effort for those who reach the final rounds. With that context, he defended his stance of prioritizing his well-being over pleasing every tournament. Even so, his words divided opinions. Some experts and fans applauded his honesty and the courage to speak openly about a topic many players prefer to avoid. Others, however, accused him of failing to meet his commitments and of not respecting the importance of historic tournaments like Shanghai. Still, Alcaraz did not hide. He responded firmly that he will continue to make the decisions he believes are right to prolong his career and remain competitive at the highest level.